In the American West, laws changed every mile and borders were born from promises and gunfire. Caravans vanished, banks were emptied in minutes, medallions and maps changed destinies. Today, we reopen the board. 15 cases time didn't close. Clues, suspects, and questions that still haunt us. Number 15. Who was Billy the Kid, really? In the West, his name became shorthand for danger and escape. But behind the nickname was a boy with a name and a past, Henry McCarty, also known as William H. Bonney. Born in New York in 1859, he lost his mother young, drifted through boarding houses and odd jobs, and slipped into petty crimes. In New Mexico, the Lincoln County War pulled him into alliances and revenge. Quick on the draw, loyal to his crew, he became both a legend and a target. In 1881 in Fort Sumner, Sheriff Pat Garrett claimed to have killed him, and the official story closed the case. Except it didn't, not completely. Decades later, men came forward claiming to be the survivor. The loudest in 1950 was Brushy Bill Roberts, who asked for a pardon and was denied. Since then, messy records, missing pieces, and the lack of a confirmed body have kept another theory alive. Garrett might have staged the death. If there was a deal, who profited from the silence? Number 14. The hidden treasure of the Dalton Gang. In the early 1890s, brothers Grat, Bob, and Emmett Dalton roamed Kansas, the Oklahoma Territory, and nearby states, robbing trains and banks. With every getaway, their fame grew. And so did the question, where did the money go? The key is in their method. They lived on the road, constantly changing horses, routes, and hideouts. Flashing marked bills would draw the law. Carrying everything at once was asking for an ambush. The most likely move was to stash parts of the loot in small hidden spots, discreet places marked by signs only the gang could read. Reports mention hiding places along trails in Kansas and Oklahoma. They used cheap containers, kerosene cans, ammo boxes, jars sealed with wax. No reliable maps ever surfaced. At best, there were coded notes now lost to time. The turning point came on October 5, 1892, in Coffeyville, Kansas. Trying to hit two banks at once, the Daltons faced armed townspeople. The gunfight took over Main Street. Grat and Bob were killed. Emmett, shot several times, was captured and later released years afterward. He talked about the past, but never revealed a location. Since then, treasure hunters have scoured hills with metal detectors and old records. Rumors keep coming up. Real finds, almost never. Still, the feeling remains. Maybe just a few steps from an old fence, a bag of coins is still waiting for someone willing to dig. Number 13. The Curse of Bodie. On the slopes of the Sierra Nevada in California, Bodie became a time capsule of the 19th century. Wooden streets, locked saloons, and a school left just as it was when the gold ran out and the town emptied. Records tell of peaks of wealth followed by fires and bankruptcies. Out of that came a rule, whispered more than spoken. Nothing leaves Bodie. Anyone who takes a nail, a stone, or a shard carries bad luck with it. Since the mid-20th century, rangers and curators have been getting packages in the mail. Inside, the souvenir. Alongside it, notes about being fired, accidents, illness, divorce, or debt. Many say things start to get better after sending the item back. Some claim the legend started as a clever trick to stop theft. Even so, the pattern stands out. Someone takes something, goes through a streak of bad luck, and rushes to the post office to undo the mistake. For skeptics, it's coincidence and selective memory. For those who study folklore, it's a simple way to protect what's left, and it works. Visitors walk between the old facades, listen to the wind, and face the same choice as before. Respect the town as it stands or test their luck. In Bodie, the silence doesn't ask for explanations. It just reminds you that some pacts without signs or laws still hold true. Number 12. The Legend of Jean-Baptiste. In the Utah Territory around the mid-19th century, an immigrant became a gravedigger in Salt Lake City. His name was Jean-Baptiste. By day, he seemed honest. By night, he dug up graves and took clothes and small belongings from the newly buried. In 1862, the scheme fell apart. The body of outlaw Maroney Clausen was found without its burial clothes. Police went to the gravedigger's house and discovered piles of funeral garments and personal items from many deceased. The city erupted in outrage. To prevent a lynching, the authorities chose isolation. They took Baptiste at night to the remote Fremont Island in the Great Salt Lake, leaving him there with water and flour to await trial. Weeks later, a strange scene was found. His shelter had been torn down and turned into reused lumber. On the ground were traces of tanned leather and animal bones. Of the prisoner, there was no sign. Theories followed. Did he build a raft and cross the lake, try to swim and drown, or did someone take him away to keep him quiet? With no final proof, only the legend remains. When the lake's water level drops, locals and curious visitors search the island, hoping to find the one clue that might finally tell how Jean-Baptiste's story ended. Number 11. They call it the Curse of Slumac's Gold. Around Pitt Lake in British Columbia for more than a century, stories have circulated about a gold mine no one's ever been able to find. Slumac, a man from the Katzie Nation, was hanged in 1891, convicted of killing Louis B. Before that, they say he wandered through valleys and ravines, bringing back gold and keeping silent. He never revealed the path. With his death, the trail turned into rumor. News spread from New Westminster to the Pitt River communities. Adventurers came. Dense forest, icy water, and treacherous ground crushed their plans. Still, the promise of a rich vein refused to fade. That's when the idea of a curse took hold. Anyone who tried to find the mine would pay a heavy price. Over the decades came expeditions, hurried letters, and stone carvings that could have meant anything. Some came back sick, others never came back at all. In the fog and the rain, every footprint became a clue. Sometimes a gold nugget or a story would resurface, and the fever would start again. Some say the mine is just a legend fueled by fear and greed. Others swear the gold is real, hidden in some forgotten tributary. If you were there, would you follow the sound of a strange creek? Or remember the stories along the shores of Pitt Lake and turn back? Number 10. The Lost Ship of the Desert. In the Colorado Desert of Southern California, stories have been told for generations about a ship buried beneath the dunes. They say it was a Spanish galleon that came up from the Gulf of California, loaded with pearls from La Paz, and got stranded when shallow waterways still crossed the region. Over time, the land dried up, the wind reshaped the sands, and the ship's hull supposedly vanished in plain sight. The legend grew through scattered reports. Travelers and prospectors swear that after sandstorms, darkened planks could be seen poking out of ravines. Some describe a classic galleon. Others say it looked more like a Norse-style boat, which doesn't fit the local history. Some tie the whole thing to the roots of Captain Juan de Iturbe in the 17th century. What's missing is the key part: proof. Searches have turned up no metal fittings, preserved wood, or credible documents. Skeptics point out that heat, wind, and salt destroy wood quickly. Still, when the sun dips low and the dunes shift, many can't help but imagine something glinting beneath the sand. And the search goes on. Number 9. The Lost Gold of Doc Noss. On the slopes of Victorio Peak in southern New Mexico, there's a story that never seems to fade. In the 1930s, Milton Ernest Doc Noss, a chiropractor and treasure hunter, claimed to have found a narrow passage leading to a hidden chamber inside the mountain. There, he said, were gold bars and ancient artifacts. Convinced they came from old Spanish expeditions, he tried widening the entrance with explosives, but the tunnel collapsed, sealing it shut. From then on, his life became a crusade. He went door to door, selling shares and promising payouts in gold bars. The stories multiplied. Colonial treasure, war loot, a secret stash. In 1949, a fight over control and money ended with Noss being shot dead by Charlie Ryan, who was later acquitted. The exact location of the entrance was lost among conflicting accounts and bad maps. Today, anyone who stands at the base of Victorio Peak hears the same thing. Beneath the rock lies a fortune powerful enough to turn friends into rivals and dreams into tragedy. And if someone ever finds the way in, the story will begin all over again. Number 8. The Mystery of Pancho Villa. In the middle of the Mexican Revolution, Francisco Pancho Villa became a central and hard-to-define figure. He was the commander who led cavalry columns, the former outlaw who knew every back road in the north, and for many peasants, an ally against landowners and generals. On July 20, 1923, in Parral, Chihuahua, He was ambushed and killed. He was buried in Hidalgo del Parral. It seemed like the end. It wasn't. In 1926, the tomb was opened, and his skull was gone. The news spread fast, and the hunt for clues began. Who took it, and why? 3 main theories emerged. One spoke of an art dealer who supposedly exported it to a private collector. Another pointed toward U.S. intelligence services, interested in the symbolism. The most persistent version led to Yale in New Haven, the Skull and Bones Society. There are stories of skulls kept there. Geronimo's name even appears in some. Was someone paid to remove Villa's head and deliver it to the club? Investigations combed through records, ports, and border logs. Nothing conclusive ever surfaced. The body received honors, but the head's fate remains unknown. That's where the mystery holds. Faced with missing papers, late testimonies, and powerful egos, which version still stands when the light hits? Number 7. Albert Jennings Fountain. Albert Jennings Fountain was a lawyer, politician, and veteran. On February 1, 1896, he left Lincoln, New Mexico, with his son Henry to wrap up a case against cattle rustlers. They traveled by wagon and passed through White Sands in the Tularosa Basin. There, a traveler saw them for the last time. When they didn't reach their destination, the search began. The wagon was found empty, the horses wandering, a pool of blood nearby, a spent rifle shell, and hoof prints trailing off into the dry land. There were no bodies, no tracks showing what happened next. The message was clear. Someone had stopped that journey by force. Suspicion fell on the men accused of cattle theft. Sheriff Pat Garrett, the same man who had hunted Billy the Kid, was called in. Even so, there was no trace of Albert or Henry. Without solid evidence, rumors and promises took the place of answers, and the investigation went cold. Since then, the case has lived on through theories. One says father and son were killed in revenge and buried in the desert. Another ties the disappearance to politics. Fountain had made enemies by crossing powerful interests. What's left is a void that spans generations. The clues are there, but the end of that road still isn't on the map. Number 6. Butch Cassidy and his most famous partner, the Sundance Kid, rose to fame just as the Old West was losing its frontiers. They came from the Wild Bunch, a gang that planned train and bank robberies using maps, informants, and quick horse swaps. When Pinkerton detectives and sheriffs tightened the net, the duo crossed the continent and vanished into South America. The trail ends in Bolivia, in the town of San Vicente. On November 7, 1908, local records mention a shootout and 2 bodies buried in haste. It seemed like the story was over, until the basics started missing. No solid photos, no fingerprints that matched for sure. That's when the legend took off. Reports began surfacing of sightings back in the U.S., from Texas to Wyoming, and whispered stories of a familiar face showing up at family gatherings. In 1934, a manuscript called Bandit Invincible, signed by William T. Phillips, fueled the debate by suggesting Cassidy and his partner escaped Bolivia and returned home. No one ever proved it either way. What's certain is that shaky records and conflicting memories keep the mystery alive, and every new clue redraws the map. Number 5. Pearl Hart. In the Old West, a Canadian-born woman named Pearl Taylor, born in 1871, decided to go off script. She headed to Arizona, took odd jobs, and got close to the rough side of mining towns and saloons. In 1899, with her partner Joe Boot, she cut her hair short, dressed like a man, and picked the road between Globe and Florence for their plan. In Cane Springs Canyon, they stopped a stagecoach, took about $431, and gave each passenger $1 back, a gesture that made headlines across the country. The getaway didn't last long. The sheriff caught up with them. The trial became a spectacle. At first, she was acquitted. Later, federal charges for interfering with the mail landed her a 5-year sentence at the Yuma Territorial Prison. After 18 months, Governor Alexander O. Brody granted her a pardon, officially because the prison wasn't equipped for women, unofficially because of rumors she was pregnant. Boot got 30 years, became a trustee, and escaped during outside work detail. Once free, Pearl tried to live off her fame. She reenacted the robbery, joined Wild West shows, and may have even performed with Buffalo Bill's troupe. After that, her trail went cold. A cigar shop in Kansas City, rumors in Arizona, maybe Mexico. In the end, what remains is the spark she left in the dust. Who gets to make the rules? Number 4. In the Superstition Mountains of Arizona, a story has refused to die since the late 19th century. It tells of Jacob Waltz, a German nicknamed the Dutchman, who supposedly kept the secret path to a rare gold deposit. He would show up with gold of incredible purity but never revealed the route. The stories differ. Some say he got directions from Apache guides. Others mention a partner named Jacob Weiser, whose disappearance sparked conflicting accounts. When Waltz died in 1891, what remained were confusing notes, a crooked map, stone markings with recognizable shapes, and a hint that the entrance could only be seen in the light of late afternoon. Those clues drew waves of prospectors, guides, and treasure hunters who scoured canyons and ridges, hoping to find a vein you could cut with a knife. Over time, tales of accidents and disappearances became part of the legend. Today, the mine acts like a mirror. It promises fortune to those who dare and takes its toll on those who misstep, keeping alive the question that fuels every new search. Number 3. The Thunderbird of Tombstone. Among many indigenous peoples of North America, there are stories of a bird connected to thunder and storms. To settlers and readers of the 19th century, it sounded like campfire talk. That changed in April 1890, when the Tombstone Epitaph newspaper in Arizona published a report that caught the country's attention. Ranchers had supposedly brought down a massive winged creature in the desert outside town. The article described a long body, a broad chest, and wings so wide that when spread on the ground, they seemed to swallow the horizon. It was said to be larger than any known bird and heavy as a pack animal. The story spread quickly, passed from hand to hand, fueling conversations in bars, train stations, and post offices. Some saw it as proof of old native legends. Others called it a hoax or a mix-up with large western birds. Over time, more sightings popped up around the region, all with the same pattern. Something dark and silent crossing desert valleys, gliding as if untouched by the wind. But the basics were missing. No physical evidence, no feathers kept, no bones cataloged, no record solid enough to settle the matter. Some said it was a condor. Others claimed it was a survivor from ancient lines, blown out of proportion by imagination. With no verdict, the case remains as any good mystery does, waiting for the next chapter. Number 2. The Roswell Incident. Decades before 1947, a strange case was already making the rounds in New Mexico. In 1878, in what's now Roosevelt County, a rancher named John Martin was found dead under mysterious circumstances. The injuries didn't match an animal attack, a bar fight, or a fall from his horse. Neighbors tried to piece it together, but every clue pointed in a different direction. Some claimed they'd seen something streaking across the sky the night before. Others blamed it on revenge, a hired gun, or just bad luck in the Wild West. No proof ever turned up. Since then, the story's been passed around. For some, it's a prologue to Roswell. For others, just a coincidence. With no evidence, the question still hangs in the air. And it's from that gap that new versions keep being born, keeping curiosity hooked on the mystery. Number 1. The Mystery of Cochise. Cochise, chief of the Chokonen, one of the Chiricahua Apache groups, became a key figure of the Old West. Between 1849 and 1886, during the Apache Wars that swept across the American Southwest, he ruled both land and people, choosing when to fight and when to negotiate. His goal was to preserve his community's autonomy under pressure from soldiers, settlers, and stagecoach routes. In 1874, already ill, Cochise died of natural causes. That's where the mystery begins. Where was he buried? The most accepted account says his body was taken to the Dragoon Mountains in southeastern Arizona, a region well known to the Chiricahua. A small group carried the coffin to a hidden crevice. Among them was Tom Jeffords, an ally and go-between for the Apache and U.S. authorities. The secrecy was intentional. There was fear of grave robbers and curiosity seekers. Over the years, searches, makeshift maps, and claims of rock markings came and went. Nothing conclusive. The desert's silence became part of the answer. The lost location protects what Cochise fought for in life, the right of a people to decide how they honor their memory and their dead. That's why the mystery endures. It's not just a hidden place, but a pact that's lasted through generations.